Greetings, I'm Laura Puccia Valtorta. It's December and we're finally getting some cold weather here in South Carolina. Some people call it South Kakalaki. I'm kind of enjoying the weather, 50s Fahrenheit. I am a content creator and my movies include Bermuda and Disaster Man and also The Disease Detective Looks at Aphasia. All available on Amazon, Fossum, and Tubi. A big shout out to our listeners in Germany, Los Angeles, and Great Britain. I wish that all the streaming channels would pay as much as Amazon. We make the films, we deserve to get paid more. Welcome to a new episode of my podcast, B is for Bisexual. This is a story entitled Christmas Witch. We're getting festive here during the winter solstice. As always, my family is here helping me read the story. We have my son Dante.
Hello, Merry Christmas.
And my husband Marco.
Buongiorno, auguri.
After we read the story, I'll tell you about some exciting developments in screenwriting. And now, Christmas Witch. Agnes was the kind of witch who opened her mouth and train noises came out. A lonely midnight horn and that chugga-chugga sound of the track.
Chugga, 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 toot, chugga, 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 toot.
She'd been spending her time in Chapin, South Carolina, campaigning to get some passenger trains up and running. Now that this project was partly underway, with train lines running several times a day back and forth between Columbia and Charleston, she decided to relocate to Anniston, Alabama, at the request of Sally Rutherford, Democratic socialist and a big fan of the late British actor Margaret Rutherford. Sally wanted Agnes to move south to enable Alabamians to travel around more easily, since gas prices were so high and people in general could not afford vacations anymore. A day trip to Atlanta without dragging the car along could easily lift anyone's spirits. There was the High Museum, for example. There was the rejuvenated Atlanta Underground. Sally suggested that Agnes rent an apartment from her good friend Marge, a fellow activist who lived in Anniston. Marge's living situation turned out to be more interesting than Agnes had bargained for. Marge's best friend Bobbert had driven up from her commune in Mexico, and the two women were sharing a bedroom. But it was the communal life that Agnes wanted to hear about.
So, we grow vegetables and mezcal.
Bobbert explained, her head decorated with tin can curlers from garbanzo beans.
Processing the agave is fun. Involves donkeys.
Explained Bobbert.
I lost a lot of weight doing that work.
Bobbert still looked pretty hefty to Agnes, but she expressed congratulations on the weight loss and asked who lived with Bobbert on the commune.
Marge's son Peebles,
said Bobbert, counting on her fingers.
His boyfriend Oliver, Oliver's wife Celadine and their twins, Honey and Bunny, Celadine's lover Lavinia, myself, Diesel who dates Honey, and sometimes, here and there, a mezcalẽra named Carmen.
Bobbert winked.
Carmen is a special friend of mine.
Wow,
said Agnes. Who were all these people? And what was Bobbert doing back in Alabama if her interests lay with Carmen, the mezcal what's-it? Marge rolled her eyes and went out to work in the garden. To Agnes, Marge didn't look especially happy to see Bobbert, but Marge was never extremely happy. Sally Rutherford had informed her that Marge's face was lost in a scrubby frown most of the time, except when she was cooking, gardening, or talking about her plans for defeating the current military regime in the U.S. At those times, Marge beamed. At those times, Marge's face lit up like a neon sign. Ask her about her plans for the train system, said Sally. That will encourage Marge to smile. At dinner, Agnes asked about it. We want to have a big union running these trains, said Marge, and we want them to be paid right with health insurance. The people need cheaper, easier transportation, so they will get on the trains and read our signs and take home our brochures. Agnes nodded. And you can imagine what those brochures will say, concluded Marge, her face flashing with delight. Agnes could imagine, so she attended the next Democratic Socialists of America meeting below the bar in Anniston with a chili cook-off sign that was moved to a new place to signal where each meeting was held. Bobbert arrived at the meeting with Marge.
Want some mezcal?
She asked, passing around a bottle. It had a donkey on the front and was called Celadine Mezcal.
That stuff is too strong for me,
said Dominguez, the bearded building contractor, refusing the bottle. I'll take a swig, said Emily, who wore a flowered dress and worked as a librarian. She took a huge gulp, and her eyes went rounder. Woo-wee! You'd better watch yourself, said Sally. I want to introduce to everyone Marge's friend Bobbert from Oaxaca, Mexico, and Agnes Quattrocchi from South Carolina. Agnes is a passenger train organizer, and I invited her here. Agnes stood up to deliver her spiel about passenger trains, cheap transportation, and how the trains could be solar-powered. She said the price of tickets could be kept low by government subsidies. The noise, she said, would be pleasant and minimal.
How much noise you talking about?
Asked Bobbert. Agnes opened her mouth and let out a train whistle. Bobbert, who rose to her feet in astonishment, acted impressed. Sally clapped her hands. Marge just smiled and squeezed her eyes shut. The longer Agnes stayed in Anniston, the more she wished to get rid of Bobbert. This woman did not belong in the States. She was enamored of Mexico, and Agnes was enamored of Marge. Marge was a silent, steady type. She was slow to learn and long to forget. Whoever had taught her to garden, to make a pie, to keep a house in order, had taught her well.
Who taught you all of this?
Asked Agnes, scanning the kitchen with her hands. My mother, said Marge. She was a smiling, patient woman. Bobbert, on the other hand, was nervous, ready for adventure. She learned quickly and always hungered for more.
When I get back to Oaxaca,
said Bobbert,
I'm going to ask my Mixtec friends to teach me rug weaving.
How will you have time? Asked Marge sarcastically. With the mezcal harvest and everything.
There are seasons for everything,
said Bobbert.
Even in hot Mexico.
Agnes found this quickness fun, and she found it entertaining, but she did not want to live with it. When Bobbert was around, life became fiery and itchy, and she was always talking seductively about Carmen, the mezcalẽra. This was just to get Marge's jealousy engines running, but Marge would not ignite. You should bring Carmen here, Marge replied in a steady voice. Show her how we do things in America.
Mexico is America,
said Barbara haughtily, as though she had already given up on the U.S. Agnes could not wait for Bobbert to leave. If Agnes were to indulge in witchcraft, she would give Bobbert a horrible itchy rash, and the notion it would probably go away in Mexico. She could give Bobbert a terrible hankering for Mexican soup and real Mexican music. But at the age of 567, Agnes was done with jealousy games and done with childish tricks. She wanted to win Marge honestly by proving her own worth.
I'm not good at cooking,
she told Marge.
but I'm willing to learn.
Marge stared at her hard with no signs of appreciation.
I do know how to knit and crochet.
Marge raised one eyebrow. This small sign of approbation caused Agnes to shop at Walmart for some textured yarn and some large wooden needles, 2 sets, size 9. She showed the purchases to Marge.
We should knit to defeat the president,
she told Marge. Marge smiled, a rare beaming face. Yeah, let's knit up some big signs. Agnes thought that large knit placards with letters stitched into them, such as "Down with the Dictatorship" or "No Fascism," would be particularly portable and durable, resistant to rain and hot weather, also washable. Marge suggested freedom. They set to work in the evenings after dinner.
Do you want to help us knit?
Agnes offered to Bobbert.
No gracias.
Said Bobbert.
After work is my TV time. I watch a lot of TV in Mexico, but it's kind of relaxing to see something in English for a change.
After about 15 minutes of The Voice, Bobbert dozed off. Agnes shut off the television and continued knitting signs with Marge. By the time Christmas rolled around, Bobbert was noticeably bored.
All you ever do is knit,
she complained to Marge. The sign for chili cook-off is popular for our group, said Marge. Now I've got to make one that says freedom.
just as long as you don't forget the Christmas dinner.
Said Bobbert.
I'm hankering for some cranberry sauce.
Why don't you sit over there and read something by Chimamanda Adichie?
Said Agnes.
Or Mark Twain.
I'm more for doing things than reading.
Said Bobbert. She went to turn on the television. Christmas dinner was a delectable feast. Marge prepared bacon chicken with stuffing, pumpkin pie, green bean casserole, a salad, and mashed potatoes. The cooking took all day, with Agnes and Bobbert watching and Marge doing all the work. The eating took 20 minutes, and then everything was gone.
Wow, that was delicious.
Said Bobbert.
Celadine and Bunny try their best, but they cannot cook as good as you, Marge.
She stood up and gave Marge a hug.
I'm going to watch some soccer on TV.
Agnes observed all of this.
Why don't you go and relax with Bobbert while I clean up the dishes?
You don't have to do that, said Marge. You're a guest,
I want to help.
said Agnes.
You've given me a place to stay for more than a month.
Marge and Agnes cleaned up the kitchen together. On Boxing Day, Bobbert rolled her suitcase downstairs. She was dressed in a purple sweatsuit. Marge and Agnes were eating leftover pie for breakfast.
Can I take the car?
Said Bobbert.
I'm driving back to Oaxaca.
That Kia Soul is my car, said Marge.
2019 model. Should be worth about $1,000.
Said Bobbert.
Can I buy it from you for that?
2,000, said Marge. I might need to get me a Tesla truck,
Oh, Marge,
said Agnes, horrified.
the Democratic Socialists might not like that.
Why, said Marge. My money, my choice.
If you're
Bobbert
going to kip
laughed.
around here, Agnes, you're going to need to follow Marge's rules.
The three women laughed. And they hugged each other before Bobbert went on her way back to Mexico. Do-do-do-do. That's the end of our story. Now, dear listener, I have some exciting news. I learned recently that my pilot screenplay set in Italy, Pasticceria Fausto, the pilot for a limited series, has gotten a couple of prizes. One in the Los Angeles Television Writing Festival, finalist, and one in the Vail Screenplay Festival, quarterfinalist so far, but we hope it goes higher than that. I'm looking forward to attending both those festivals in 2026. Ciao!
Arrivederci,
Ciao a
ciao a
tutti.
tutti.
Doo-doo-doo.